You walk out to your backyard early in the morning with a cup of coffee in your hand, expecting to check your tomatoes, your peppers, maybe the roses by the porch, and then you see it. The new growth is curled, the stems look sticky, the leaves are shiny in the wrong way, and when you turn one leaf over, there they are. Hundreds of tiny green, black, or gray insects, packed tightly together like they moved in overnight. Aphids. At first, they do not look dangerous. They are tiny, soft, almost harmless looking, and a lot of gardeners make the mistake of thinking, I will deal with that later. But by the time you say later, the colony has already doubled, the ants have already found the honeydew, and the plant that looked healthy last week is now losing its strength day by day. Today, I want to show you a simple kitchen method that can help bring aphids under control fast, without reaching immediately for harsh chemical sprays. The main ingredient costs almost nothing, and there is a good chance it is already sitting in your pantry right now. But there is one important warning before we begin. If you use it too strong, if you spray it at the wrong time, or if you only spray the top of the leaves like most people do, it will either fail completely or damage the very plants you are trying to save. So stay with me because this is not just a recipe. This is the full method, what aphids are doing to your garden, why the popular internet tricks often fail, the exact baking soda spray ratio, how to apply it properly, what to expect after 48 hours, and most importantly, how to keep aphids from coming back all season long. Let's start with the real enemy. Aphids are not just little bugs making your plants look ugly. They are sap-sucking insects and they target the softest, juiciest parts of your plants: new tomato growth, pepper tips, cucumber vines, rosebuds, bean shoots, cabbage leaves, and tender herbs. They insert their tiny mouth parts into the plant and pull out the sap, which is the plant's living energy. When enough aphids gather, the leaves curl, the stems weaken, the flowers fail to open properly, and fruit production slows down. But the damage does not stop there. Aphids can spread plant viruses from one plant to another. A single infected plant can become the starting point for a much bigger problem, especially in a backyard garden where tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, beans, and flowers may all be growing close together. Once a plant virus takes hold, there is often no simple cure. That is why the first few days matter so much. Aphids are not a problem you leave for next weekend. They are a problem you handle when you first see them. And then there are ants. If you see ants climbing up and down the stems of your plants, do not ignore it. Ants love the sticky sweet liquid that aphids leave behind called honeydew. In many gardens, ants protect aphids like tiny livestock. They move them to fresh growth, defend them from ladybugs, and help the colony survive. So when you see ants running along your pepper plants, roses, or bean vines, turn the leaves over and look closely. Aphids may already be there. Now, what do most gardeners do when they find aphids? They usually try one of three things. First, soapy water. Second, vinegar. Third, a chemical insecticide from the garden center. Each one has a problem. Plain soapy water can work to some degree because soap can break down the aphid's protective coating and dry them out. But it only works when it touches the aphids directly. If you spray the top of the leaves while the colony is hiding underneath, most of them survive. Also, plain soapy water runs off quickly and often does not stay in contact long enough. Vinegar is risky. It may repel some pests, but it can also burn leaves, especially on tender plants like cucumbers, young peppers, basil, roses, and seedlings. Too weak and it does almost nothing. Too strong and the leaves suffer before the aphids do. Chemical sprays can be fast, and I understand the temptation. When you have spent months raising tomatoes or roses and suddenly see the stems covered in aphids, you want results immediately. But many insecticides do not only kill aphids, they can also harm ladybugs, lacewings, hoverflies, bees, and other beneficial insects that your garden needs. And when you remove the natural predators, aphids often come back faster than the good insects do. That creates a cycle where you spray again and again, and the garden becomes more dependent on products instead of becoming more balanced. That is why this pantry method is worth knowing. The powder is baking soda, sodium bicarbonate, not baking powder. Not washing soda, plain baking soda. Baking soda helps because aphids have very soft bodies covered by a thin protective layer. They do not have a hard shell like beetles. When the right baking soda solution touches their bodies, it can disturb that protective layer and make it harder for them to hold moisture. The solution also changes the surface environment of the leaf in a way aphids do not like. In simple terms, it both weakens the aphids it touches and makes the plant surface less comfortable for the ones trying to settle there. But baking soda alone is not enough. If you just mix baking soda and water, much of it runs right off the leaves. That is why the recipe includes two other kitchen ingredients, vegetable oil and a tiny amount of liquid soap. The oil helps the spray stick, and it can also help smother soft-bodied insects. The soap helps the oil and water mix evenly, so you do not end up spraying plain water at first and oily droplets at the end. Here is the exact recipe. Use 1 quart of lukewarm water, or 1 liter if you prefer metric. Add 1 tablespoon of baking soda. Add 1 tablespoon of vegetable oil such as canola oil, sunflower oil, olive oil, or whatever plain cooking oil you already have. Then add 3 to 5 drops of liquid dish soap, just a few drops, not a big squeeze. Mix it well, pour it into a spray bottle, and shake it thoroughly. The water should be lukewarm, not hot and not cold. Hot water can stress the plant, and cold water can shock tender leaves in hot weather. The finished spray should look slightly cloudy and evenly mixed. If you see oil floating on top, shake again. If it still separates badly, add 1 or 2 extra drops of soap, but do not overdo it. Too much soap can damage leaves. Now comes the part where most people fail. Do not spray only the top of the leaves. Aphids hide on the undersides of leaves, inside curled tips, around flower buds, and along tender stems. If you spray from above and walk away, you may only hit a small portion of the colony. You need to lift the leaves gently, turn them over, and spray the underside where the aphids are actually feeding. Use a fine mist, not a hard stream. You do not want to blast the plant. You want a thin, even coating. Spray the affected areas until they are lightly covered, but not dripping heavily. Shake the sprayer every few minutes because oil and water naturally try to separate. This small habit makes a big difference. The best time to spray is in the evening, after the sun has dropped and the heat has eased. Do not spray in direct midday sun. Water droplets and oil on leaves can increase the risk of leaf burn, especially during hot American summers in places like Texas, Georgia, Florida, Arizona, or the Midwest. Evening gives the spray time to work overnight, and aphids are less likely to move away quickly. Also, check the weather. Do not spray right before rain. If rain washes the solution off within a couple of hours, you will need to repeat it once the leaves dry. The ideal situation is a dry evening followed by a dry night. Here is the schedule. Spray the first time as soon as you notice aphids. Then spray again after 48 hours. Then spray a third time 3 to 4 days after that. That gives you 3 treatments in about 1 week. Why 3 times? Because the first spray knocks down the adults and larger nymphs that you hit directly. But some tiny young aphids may survive, especially if they are hidden inside curled leaves or deep in the new growth. The second spray hits the survivors and newly exposed ones. The third spray prevents the colony from rebuilding. Aphids reproduce so fast that one spray often feels successful for 2 days, then the problem suddenly returns. The 3-step schedule breaks that cycle. What should you expect after the first spray? The first evening, you may not see much. The aphids may still look alive. Do not panic. By the next morning, many should move more slowly, appear dull, or begin to dry. After 24 hours, you may see dead aphids stuck to the leaves. After 48 hours, the colony should be noticeably weaker. That is when you do the second spray, again in the evening, again under the leaves. After the second treatment, most of the active colony should collapse. By the end of the first week, after the third treatment, the plant should look much cleaner. If there is sticky honeydew left on the leaves, gently rinse it off with a soft stream of water in the morning. Honeydew can lead to sooty mold, that dark film that makes leaves look dirty and blocks sunlight. Removing the sticky residue helps the plant recover. Now let's talk about the mistake that ruins this method. Overdosing baking soda. Many gardeners think if 1 tablespoon works, 2 tablespoons must work better. That is how plants get burned. Baking soda is still a salt. At the right concentration, it targets soft-bodied aphids fairly gently. At a stronger concentration, it can pull moisture from plant leaf cells too. The edges of the leaves may turn brown, spots may appear, and tender new growth may curl or dry. You may kill the aphids, but you may also set the plant back badly. So remember this clearly. 1 tablespoon of baking soda per 1 quart or 1 liter of water. No more. If the problem is severe, increase coverage and repeat on schedule. Do not increase the strength. Also, never use washing soda. Washing soda and baking soda are not the same. Washing soda is much more alkaline and much harsher. It can damage plant leaves quickly. The label should say baking soda or sodium bicarbonate. If it says sodium carbonate or washing soda, do not use it on your plants. Very young seedlings are another exception. If a seedling has only a few true leaves, it may be too sensitive for this spray. On young seedlings, remove aphids by hand, rinse gently with water, or use a very mild soap solution only after testing. Small plants do not have much leaf area to lose, so always be cautious. You can use this spray on many common backyard plants when used correctly: tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, zucchini, squash, beans, roses, cabbage, broccoli, kale, lettuce, strawberries, herbs, and many ornamental shrubs. But always test one leaf first, especially on delicate herbs, young plants, or plants already stressed by heat, drought, or disease. If you see leaf burn the next day, stop and rinse the plant gently. Now, getting rid of aphids is only half the job. Keeping them from coming back is the real secret. Aphids love soft, juicy growth, and one of the biggest causes of soft growth is too much nitrogen. If you keep feeding your plants with fast-acting, high-nitrogen fertilizer, you may be growing the exact kind of tender shoots aphids love. The plant looks lush, but the tissue is soft. That is a buffet for aphids. Use compost, well-rotted manure, slow-release organic fertilizer, and balance feeding instead of pushing plants with too much nitrogen. Tomatoes need strength, not just leaves. Peppers need steady growth, not weak tender shoots. Roses need healthy structure, not only fast new tips. When you control nitrogen, you make the garden less attractive to aphids. The next step is inviting natural predators. Ladybugs are famous aphid hunters, but their larvae are even more aggressive. A single ladybug larva can eat hundreds of aphids as it grows. Lacewing larvae are also excellent. Hoverfly larvae eat aphids too, and birds help more than people realize. To bring these helpers into the garden, plant flowers near your vegetables and roses. Dill, fennel, parsley allowed to flower, yarrow, chamomile, marigolds, alyssum, cilantro flowers, and calendula can all help attract beneficial insects. You do not need a huge flower bed. A few pots near the tomatoes, a strip of flowers beside the raised beds, or a small corner near the roses can make a difference. And avoid spraying broad chemical insecticides when you are trying to build this balance. If you kill the ladybugs and lacewings along with the aphids, you weaken your garden's natural defense system. Aphids come back quickly. Predators take longer. That is why natural control and predator support should go together. Garlic water can also help as a preventive spray. Crush 4 or 5 garlic cloves, add them to 1 quart or 1 liter of hot but not boiling water. Let it sit overnight, then strain it. Use the garlic water once a week as a light preventive spray on healthy plants, especially after the baking soda treatment cycle is finished. Garlic is not usually enough to wipe out a heavy aphid colony by itself, but it can make plants less attractive to new aphids. Do not mix every home remedy into one bottle. This is another common mistake. Baking soda, oil, soap, garlic, vinegar, hot pepper, and neem oil, all in one mixture does not make a super spray. It makes an unpredictable spray that may burn leaves. Use one method properly, watch the plant, then use prevention afterward. Neem oil is another tool some American gardeners use, especially in organic gardening. It can help with aphids, whiteflies, and other soft-bodied pests, but it must also be used carefully, usually in the evening and away from direct flower contact when pollinators are active. The same rule applies. Natural does not mean careless. Natural products can still damage leaves or harm beneficial insects if used badly. Baking soda can also be used in a weaker spray for powdery mildew prevention on plants like cucumbers, squash, pumpkins, roses, and grapes. For that purpose, many gardeners use a lower concentration, such as 1 teaspoon of baking soda per quart or liter of water with a few drops of soap. Do not confuse aphid rescue strength with mildew prevention strength. Different problems need different strengths. Let's recap the full aphid plan. First, identify the problem early. Look under leaves, especially on roses, peppers, cucumbers, tomatoes, beans, and tender herbs. Watch for curled growth, sticky leaves, ants, and clusters of tiny insects. Second, mix the spray. 1 quart or 1 liter of lukewarm water, 1 tablespoon baking soda, 1 tablespoon vegetable oil, 3 to 5 drops dish soap. Shake well. Third, spray in the evening. Focus on undersides of leaves, new growth, buds, and tender stems. Use a fine mist and shake the bottle often. Fourth, repeat after 48 hours. Then repeat again after another 3 to 4 days. Fifth, after the aphids are under control, prevent their return. Reduce excess nitrogen, rinse honeydew, encourage ladybugs and lacewings, plant beneficial flowers, manage ants, and use garlic water as a light weekly preventive if needed. That is the method. Simple, cheap, and practical, but only when done carefully. The beauty of this approach is not that baking soda is magical. It is not magic. It is knowledge. It is understanding the insect, the plant, the timing, the concentration, and the garden ecosystem around it. A strong garden is not one where nothing ever goes wrong. A strong garden is one where problems are caught early, handled gently, and prevented from becoming disasters. So the next time you see aphids on your roses, tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, or beans, do not panic and do not start mixing random things from the internet. Turn the leaf over, confirm the colony, make the right spray, apply it in the evening, repeat after 48 hours, and then work on the conditions that brought the aphids in the first place. If this helped you, give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. Tell me in the comments which plant aphids attack the most in your garden: roses, tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, beans, cabbage, or herbs. Also tell me what state you are gardening in, because aphid pressure can look very different in Florida, Ohio, California, Texas, Pennsylvania, or North Carolina. Your experience may help another gardener catch the problem before it takes over. And after you try this method, come back after 48 hours and share what changed. Did the leaves stop curling? Did the aphids dry up? Did the ants disappear from the stems? I read the comments and use your real garden experiences to prepare future videos. Next time, we will talk about how to stop powdery mildew before it turns cucumber and squash leaves white. Until then, keep checking the undersides of your leaves, feed your plants steadily, protect your beneficial insects, and remember that the cheapest solution in the kitchen only works when the gardener uses it with patience and precision.